Point number 2: the seven horsemen. The fifth seal, martyrs under the altar. Revelation 6 verses 9 to 11 describes the souls of martyrs crying out for justice and vengeance. The fifth seal reveals the suffering and persecution of God's people throughout history, especially during the tribulation period, when many will be killed for their faith in Christ and their testimony of the gospel. The souls of the martyrs are seen under the altar, which symbolizes the place of sacrifice and worship, as well as the presence and protection of God. They are honored as those who have offered their lives as a living sacrifice to God, Romans 12 verse 1. The martyrs cry out with a loud voice, asking God how long He will delay His judgment and vengeance on those who would shed their blood. They appeal to God's holiness and truth, as well as His promise to avenge His own elect, Luke 18 verses 7 to 8. The martyrs are given white robes, which represent their purity, righteousness, and reward. They are also told to rest for a little while longer, until the full number of their fellow servants and brothers who are to be killed as they were is completed. This implies that God has a sovereign plan and purpose for the suffering of His saints, and that He will not allow it to go beyond His appointed limit. The sixth seal, cosmic disturbances. Revelation 6 verses 12 to 17 describes cosmic disturbances, such as earthquakes and darkened sun and moon, signifying the approaching judgment. The sixth seal unleashes a series of cataclysmic events that affect the natural order of the universe. These events are similar to those predicted by Jesus in Matthew 24 verses 29 to 30, as signs of His coming and the end of the age. The sun becomes black as sackcloth, and the moon becomes like blood, indicating a loss of light and life. The stars fall from heaven to earth, as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind, indicating a disruption of the heavenly bodies and their influence. The sky recedes like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island is moved from its place, indicating a collapse of the earthly structures and stability. The whole creation groans and suffers under the curse of sin and the wrath of God, Romans 8 verses 20 to 22. The people of the earth, from kings to slaves, hide themselves in caves and among the rocks of the mountains, seeking to escape from the face of Him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. They recognize that the great day of His wrath has come, and that no one can stand before Him. They prefer to die rather than face His holy judgment. Link to my book on Amazon Kindle, Sweet Aroma of Success, https://shorturl.it/lr159. The seventh seal, the seven trumpets. Revelation 8 verses 1 to 6 introduces a new series of 7 trumpet judgments that follow the seals, marking further catastrophic events. The seventh seal opens with silence in heaven for about half an hour, which may indicate a solemn pause before the next wave of judgments, or a contrast between the calmness in heaven and the chaos on earth. The seventh seal also reveals 7 angels who stand before God, each holding a trumpet. The trumpets are instruments of warning and alarm, announcing God's impending intervention in human affairs. Another angel comes and stands at the altar, having a golden censer. He is given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. This may represent Christ as our intercessor and mediator, who presents our prayers to God with His own merit and fragrance, Hebrews 7 verse 25, Revelation 5 verse 8. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of the saints, ascends before God from the angel's hand. This shows that God hears and answers our prayers, especially those that cry out for His justice and kingdom to come, Revelation 6 verse 10, Matthew 6 verse 10. The angel then takes fire from the altar and throws it on the earth, causing thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. This shows that God responds to our prayers with power and action, unleashing His fiery judgment on a rebellious world. The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets then prepare to sound them. This signals that another set of plagues is about to begin, each one corresponding to a trumpet blast. These plagues will affect both nature and humanity in various ways. Reverend Finus Jennings Dake's interpretation of these passages would likely emphasize the prophetic nature of the book of Revelation and its relevance to the end times. Dake was known for his detailed study of the Bible and his belief in dispensationalism, a theological framework that divides human history into distinct periods and emphasizes the literal interpretation of prophetic passages. The fifth seal, Martyrs Under the Altar Dake, might emphasize the significance of the martyr's cry for justice and the recognition that God has a plan and limit for the suffering of his saints. He would likely view this as a confirmation of God's sovereignty over human history and the importance of faithfulness in the face of persecution. The sixth seal, Cosmic Disturbances Dake, would likely see the cosmic disturbances as literal signs of the approaching judgment, in line with his literal interpretation of prophetic passages. He might draw parallels to Jesus' teachings in Matthew 24 and emphasize the urgency of being prepared for the return of Christ. The seventh seal, the seven trumpets dake, would likely view the seventh seal as a transition to a new series of judgments, the seven trumpet judgments. He might see the silence in heaven as a moment of anticipation before God's further intervention in human affairs. The use of incense and prayers as a fragrant offering before God would likely be seen as a representation of Christ's intercession for believers. In conclusion, Reverend Finus Jennings Dake's interpretation of these passages from Revelation would focus on their prophetic nature, the literal interpretation of the events described, and the importance of faithfulness, preparedness, and God's sovereignty in the face of impending judgment and the return of Christ. His teachings often emphasize the intricate details of prophetic passages and their significance in understanding the unfolding of God's plan for the world. Live video sermon at 10 a.m. on Sunday. https://www.facebook.com/oral.hazel1. Direction to Global Life Church St. Thomas. http://www.globallifechurchusvi.org/directions-to-global-life-church.html. Links to my YouTube channel. https://www.youtube.com/channel/UC9NBHFCDMY6MVDBBB_90WMW. Link to my Facebook. https://www.facebook.com/oral.hazel1. Link to my website. http://www.globallifechurchusvi.org. You can put a smile on my face here. paypal.me/oralhazelpowerman. Cash App, $oral2020.